The wind whipped through the open window of Alex Rivera's battered Ford sedan as he navigated the twisting curves of Highway 1, the Pacific Ocean crashing against the cliffs below like an angry symphony. It was November 15, 1954, and the sun was dipping low, casting a golden hue over the rugged California coastline. 10 years. That's how long it had been since he'd left Willow Creek, the small town tucked between the ancient redwoods and the sea in Northern California. He'd been 20 then, full of ambition and anger, packing his bags after a blowout fight with his grandfather and the girl who'd stolen his heart. Now, at 30, he was returning because death had a way of dragging you back, no matter how far you'd run. His grandfather, Miguel Rivera, had passed away from a sudden heart attack just over a month ago in early October. The lawyer had explained the delay in the will reading, estate paperwork tangled in probate, complicated by Miguel's extensive land holdings. But now, the telegram had come. Alex's physical presence was required. No proxies, no excuses. Willow Creek appeared around a bend, unchanged in its quaint charm. Population 1,250, the sign said, though Alex doubted it had grown much. The main street, lined with Victorian buildings painted in soft blues and yellows, featured the same staples. The Redwood bakery with its aroma of fresh sourdough wafting out, the coastline hardware cluttered with fishing gear and lanterns, and the Willow Gallery, where local artists displayed paintings of the fog-shrouded forests and stormy seas. The air smelled of salt, pine, and a hint of wood smoke from chimneys as he pulled into the driveway of Miguel's old craftsman bungalow. The redwood trees towered like silent guardians behind it, their branches swaying gently in the coastal breeze. Alex killed the engine and sat for a moment, staring at the house. Memories flooded in, splitting logs in the backyard workshop under Miguel's watchful eye, learning to carve wood with calloused hands guiding his, the sound of waves in the distance lulling him to sleep on summer nights while the radio crackled with big band tunes. And Sarah, always Sarah Ellis, with her auburn hair that caught the sunlight like fire and blue eyes that could pierce right through his defenses. They'd been high school sweethearts, inseparable since freshman year, planning a life together, college at Stanford for him, art school for her, maybe marriage someday. But Alex's fears had ruined it all, fears of being trapped in a small town like his alcoholic father, of repeating the cycle of bitterness that had driven his mother away to Los Angeles when he was just 12. He'd left without a proper goodbye, heading south on a scholarship, then diving into San Francisco's bustling world of engineering firms and blueprints. He'd sent letters at first, pouring out apologies and regrets, but they went unanswered. Eventually, he stopped trying, burying the pain under drafting tables and late nights. Shaking off the past like dew from a fern, Alex grabbed his duffel bag and unlocked the door. The key was still under the welcome mat, Miguel's unwavering trust in the town's goodness. Inside, the house was a time capsule, worn oak floors creaking underfoot, a stone fireplace with ashes from Miguel's last fire, the faint scent of cigar smoke lingering like a ghost. On the kitchen table sat an envelope addressed to him in Miguel's shaky handwriting, the ink slightly smudged as if from a trembling hand. He tore it open, his heart pounding. Alex Mijo. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've finally come back. The house, the workshop, the land, it's all yours. But there's a condition. You stay through the new year and restore the old lighthouse trail for the Winter Solstice Festival on December 21. The town needs that path reopened. It's been overgrown since the big storm in '45 washed out bridges and felled trees. Do it right, breathe life into it again. If you leave early, everything goes to the Historical Society for auction. You ran once because you were scared of ending up like your dad, of roots turning into chains. But don't run again. Roots aren't chains, they're what keep us from blowing away in the wind. Dig deep like these redwoods. Love, Grandpa. Alex crumpled the paper, his jaw clenching tight. 6 weeks, he had blueprints to review, contracts stacking up at his engineering firm in San Francisco, a team depending on him for bridge designs and infrastructure projects. The company was on the cusp of a major government contract that could make or break them. He couldn't just hole up in this backwater town, trading slide rules for pruning shears, but losing the property that hit deeper than a root tap. This place had been his anchor after the divorce, when Miguel stepped in as both father and mentor, teaching him resilience through woodwork and long hikes in the redwoods. The trees stand tall because they dig deep, Miguel would say, his voice gravelly from years of cigars and sea air. Alex poured himself a glass of Miguel's favorite whiskey from the cabinet, the amber liquid glinting in the fading light. He stepped onto the porch, the wood groaning under his weight, and watched the sun sink into the Pacific, painting the sky in fiery oranges and deep purples. The waves crashed below the cliffs, a rhythmic reminder of time's inexorable pull. He pulled out his notebook and scribbled a note to mail to his partner, Jake. Family emergency extended. Handling estate, will reading tomorrow. Can manage by post for now. Hold the fort on the bids. The next morning, fog blanketed the town like a soft, ethereal shroud, the redwoods emerging as ghostly giants piercing the mist. Alex drove to the town hall, a modest brick building with a vibrant mural of the coastline on one wall, depicting crashing waves and towering trees. Inside, the lawyer, Elena Harlan, a sharp woman in her 60s with a tight bun and half-moon glasses perched on her nose, waited in her office. The room smelled of lavender from a vase on her desk, a stark contrast to the musty estate files stacked around. "Mr. Rivera," she said, gesturing to a creaky wooden chair. "My condolences. Miguel was a pillar of Willow Creek, always fighting for preservation." "Thanks," Alex muttered, sitting down. The chair protested under his weight. Harlan read the will aloud, her voice steady and monotonous, but clear as a bell. The stipulation matched the letter precisely: house and land to Alex, conditional on the 6-week stay and full restoration of the Lighthouse Trail. Failed to complete it, and it all defaulted to the Historical Society. "Why the trail specifically?" Alex asked, leaning forward, his elbows on the desk. Harlan folded her hands, her rings clinking softly. Miguel was passionate about history. The Lighthouse Trail dates back to the 1800s, used by loggers, fishermen, even Native American tribes before that. It winds through the redwoods to the old Willow Lighthouse on the bluff, abandoned since the 30s quake but still an icon. The 1945 storm devastated it, bridges collapsed, paths eroded. He wanted it reopened for the festival, lantern walks, art installations, a boost for tourism. But more than that, he said it would ground you, make you remember where you come from. Alex nodded slowly, signing the papers with a pen that scratched like nails on bark. Ground him? Miguel had always known how to push his buttons, even from beyond the grave. Leaving the hall, he felt the coastal wind tug at his jacket, carrying the salty tang of the sea. He decided to scout the trail himself before committing to anything rash. It started at the edge of town, a dirt path marked by a weathered signpost, winding into the dense redwood forest. He parked his Ford and hiked in, boots sinking into the damp, loamy earth. The air was crisp, filled with the chatter of hidden birds, the rustle of ferns, and the distant, eternal roar of the ocean. But the path was a disaster. Fallen branches blocked the way like barricades, vines tangled like insidious webs. Erosion had carved deep ruts that turned into muddy streams after recent rains. He pushed through for about a mile, sweat beading on his forehead despite the chill, his breath coming in visible puffs. He reached a small clearing by a bubbling stream, where sunlight filtered through the canopy in dappled patterns. And there she was. Sarah Ellis knelt on the mossy bank, her sketchpad open on her lap, pencil flying across the page as she captured the delicate curve of a sword fern unfurling. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail, stray strands escaping to frame her face, catching the light like threads of copper. She wore a faded flannel shirt over well-worn jeans and hiking boots caked with mud, practical, yet she carried an effortless beauty that made his chest tighten. She looked up at the sound of his approach, her blue eyes widening in genuine shock, then narrowing slightly with a mix of recognition and guarded caution. "Alex," she stood slowly, brushing dirt from her knees, her sketchpad clutched like a shield. What are you doing here?" His heart pounded like the waves below the cliffs. She was even more stunning than he remembered. Time had etched a quiet confidence into her features, fine lines around her eyes from years of laughter, or perhaps from the heartache he'd caused. "Sarah," he said, his voice rougher than intended, like sandpaper on wood. "Hi, I'm back for Grandpa's will. The reading was this morning." Her expression softened, the guard dropping just a fraction. "I'm so sorry about Miguel. He was like a father to me after everything. He kept me updated on you sometimes, your engineering work, your life in the city. Alex nodded, shifting his weight awkwardly. Yeah, he was good like that, always meddling in the best way. What about you? Still sketching the woods? This place looks like one of your old drawings come to life. She closed her notebook with a soft snap, tucking her pencil behind her ear. Teaching art at the community center and running the gallery on Main. It's a good life, quiet, creative, suits me. Silence stretched between them, filled with the stream's gentle babble and the unspoken weight of a decade. The air hummed with tension, memories flickering like fireflies, stolen kisses under these same redwoods, promises whispered on beach bonfires, the fight that ended it all when he'd accused her of holding him back. I'm fixing the trail, Alex blurted, breaking the quiet. For the festival, it's part of Grandpa's condition in the will, stay 6 weeks, restore it, or lose everything. Sarah's eyebrows rose, a spark of interest lighting her eyes. Really? I'm on the Historical Society Committee. We've been pushing to reopen it for years. It's a piece of our history. Could use the help if you're serious about sticking around. I am, he said, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. Staying till New Year at least. She studied him for a long moment, as if weighing his words against the past. Then she nodded. Okay, meet me here tomorrow morning. Bring gloves, a machete if you have one, and maybe some coffee. This isn't city work. It's going to get dirty. Deal, he said, a small smile tugging at his lips, despite the knot in his stomach. As she walked away, her ponytail swaying with each step, Alex exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. This was going to be harder than hacking through vines. Facing Sarah meant facing the man he'd been and the one he could still become. The next day dawned with a light drizzle, the fog lifting slowly to reveal patches of blue sky peeking through the canopy. Sarah arrived at the trailhead in an old pickup truck, its tires caked with mud from countless coastal drives. She had a backpack slung over her shoulder, stuffed with tools and 2 thermoses in hand. Coffee, she said, handing him one with a wry smile. Black, no sugar, you still take it that way. You remember, he took a sip, the warmth spreading through him like a balm against the chill. Thanks, I brought gloves and a pruning saw from Grandpa's workshop. Perfect, she glanced at the sky where clouds were parting. Let's get started before the rain picks up again. They dove into the work, clipping overgrown vines and clearing fallen debris. The path was narrow in places, forcing them close, their arms brushing accidentally, sending sparks through Alex that he tried to ignore. Conversation started safe and surface level, town gossip about the new diner opening on Main, how the bakery's cinnamon rolls were still legendary, her latest art show featuring ethereal coastal landscapes in watercolors and oils. So big city engineer now, she asked, hacking at a stubborn blackberry bush with a machete, thorns snagging her sleeve. Bridge designer, he corrected, hauling a branch aside. Working on infrastructure projects, dams, highways, it's intense, endless blueprints, client meetings. Sounds glamorous, she said, wiping sweat from her brow. Do you miss the simple life here? The redwoods don't care about deadlines. Sometimes, he admitted, pausing to catch his breath. The forest smelled of damp earth and resin, a far cry from San Francisco's smoky offices and clacking typewriters. The silence is nice, no telephones ringing off the hook. She laughed, a sound that echoed through the trees like music, twisting his gut with nostalgia. True, but they have storms, unpredictable just like life. By noon, they broke for lunch, sandwiches from her bag, eaten on a fallen log overlooking the stream. Cheese from the local goat farm, she said, handing him one. Fresh as can be. Tastes like home, he said softly, meeting her eyes. Her gaze held his for a beat too long, then she looked away. You left because it felt like a trap, didn't you? The town, the expectations. He set his sandwich down, the bread suddenly dry in his mouth. Yeah, Dad's drinking after Mom left. It poisoned everything. I didn't want to end up stuck, bitter like him. You could have talked to me about it, she said quietly, her voice carrying a hint of old hurt. I was scared, he confessed. Scared you'd convince me to stay or that I'd drag you down with me. We were just kids, Sarah. She nodded slowly, tracing patterns in the moss with her finger. I would have gone with you, Alex, to Stanford, to the city, anywhere, but you didn't give me the chance. Guilt washed over him like a cold wave. I'm sorry, Sarah, for ghosting, for the letters that stopped, for all of it. She looked at him then, her blue eyes searching his face. Apology accepted, but it took time to heal. I built a life here without you. They worked in companionable silence after that, the rhythm of labor, chop, haul, clear, easing the tension like a balm. By dusk, they'd cleared a solid quarter-mile, the path beginning to resemble its former self. As they parted at the trailhead, she squeezed his arm lightly, her touch lingering. Same time tomorrow, we're making progress. Wouldn't miss it, he replied, watching her drive away, the truck's taillights fading into the twilight. The days blurred into a steady routine that Alex found surprisingly soothing. Mornings were for trail work, his muscles aching from the unaccustomed physical labor, but it felt good, grounding, as Miguel had predicted. Sarah taught him about the ecosystem with passion, how the redwoods shared nutrients through an underground fungi network, how banana slugs slimed their way through leaves, aiding decomposition. It's all connected, she said one misty morning, pointing to a cluster of towering trees linked at the roots. Like people in a small town, one falls, the others feel it. Like us, he ventured, his voice low, testing the waters. She paused, her machete mid-swing, and glanced at him with a small smile. Maybe once, but connections can break or mend. Afternoons shifted to planning at the community center or her gallery. The space was a haven of creativity, bright walls covered in her paintings, swirling fog over the sea, redwoods bathed in autumn light, abstract waves crashing in blues and grays. These are incredible, Alex said one day, standing before a large canvas of the lighthouse bluff at sunset. You've captured the soul of this place. Thanks, she replied, blushing slightly as she arranged brushes. Art's my therapy, turns chaos into something beautiful. One evening, after a particularly grueling day repairing a washed-out bridge over the stream with ropes and pulleys, he invited her to dinner at Miguel's house. He attempted enchiladas from an old family recipe scrawled in Miguel's notebook, the kitchen filling with the sizzle of onions and the spice of chilies. They ate on the porch, bundled in jackets against the cooling air, watching the stars emerge above the redwoods, the faint hum of a neighbor's radio drifting over. This is delicious, she said, forking a bite with enthusiasm. Better than I remember from that disastrous cookout in high school. You mean the one where I burnt the grilled cheese? He chuckled, the memory warming him more than the food. She laughed too, her eyes sparkling in the porch light. Conversation turned deeper over a bottle of local wine. She opened up about her marriage, wed at 24 to a teacher from nearby Eureka, divorced at 28 when he pushed for kids and a move to the city, while she craved the stability of Willow Creek. He was safe, reliable, she said, swirling her wine. But there was no fire, no passion. I realized I deserved more. Alex shared his own city struggles, endless drafting sessions that left him hollow, superficial dates with women who saw him as a ticket to success rather than a partner. It's lonely up there, he admitted, staring at the dark forest. All the bustle, but no real connection. Their eyes locked across the table, the air thick with unspoken longing. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away, but she met him halfway. The kiss was tentative at first, a brush of lips, testing, remembering. Then it deepened, her hands finding his neck, his fingers threading through her hair. When they broke apart, breathless, she whispered, Alex, this is complicated. I know, he murmured, forehead against hers, but it feels right, like coming home. They didn't rush further that night, content with the spark reignited, but the tension built over the following days. A week in, during a sudden rain shower, they sheltered under a massive redwood, the trunk wide as a small room, bark rough against their backs. Water dripped from the leaves, soaking them through. This is miserable, he laughed, shaking rain from his hair. She shivered, and he instinctively pulled her clothes for warmth, his jacket draped over both. Her body fit against his perfectly, as if no time had passed. She looked up, lips parted, raindrops glistening on her lashes. He leaned in again, but this time she hesitated, placing a hand on his chest. Not yet, she said softly. I need to trust this, trust you won't disappear again. Fair, he agreed, though the near miss left him aching. 2 weeks in, after clearing another section and sharing stories of their lost years over crackling campfires, They sat on the stream bank, feet dangling in the cold water. Sarah's perspective shifted in his mind. He imagined her thoughts, the wariness battling hope. From her view, he was the ghost returned, stirring old wounds. "Why now?" she asked, her voice vulnerable. "Why come back and stir everything up like this?" "Grandpa's will forced my hand," he said honestly. "But maybe it's fate, or maybe I needed to face what I ran from, you included." She splashed water at him playfully, breaking the heaviness. Romantic notion for an engineer. That night dinner at her cottage, a cozy A-frame nestled in the woods, with a loft bedroom and walls lined with books and canvases. She made grilled salmon with herbs from her garden, and they talked late into the evening by the fire. As the flames crackled, casting dancing shadows, he kissed her again, this time without hesitation. Hands explored tentatively at first, then with growing urgency. Clothes shed in a trail to the loft, their bodies entangling on the soft bed under a quilt. Her skin was warm and soft under his touch, curves familiar yet thrillingly new. He kissed her neck, her breasts, eliciting soft moans that echoed his own desire. She guided him, their rhythms building, slow and exploratory, then urgent and passionate, climaxing together in a wave of release that left them breathless and entwined. Afterward, tangled in sheets, she traced lazy patterns on his chest. "That was incredible, like old times but better, we've both grown." "Yeah," he agreed, kissing her forehead. "No more running." But complications arose, as they always do in small towns. Gossip spread like wildfire through Willow Creek. At the hardware store, old Mr. Jenkins winked knowingly. "Heard you and Sarah are teaming up on more than the trail. Good match, that." Alex's mail piled up with work demands. Jake wired a telegram during a lunch break. "Bids falling apart without you here. Clients want FaceTime, not letters from the boonies." "I can't leave yet," Alex replied via postcard, frustration mounting. "Stall them, I'll figure something out." Then a bigger threat emerged. At a town meeting in the community hall, a slick developer from San Francisco named Tom Hargrove presented a proposal. Dressed in a sharp suit that screamed outsider, he unrolled blueprints of luxury cabins. "Willow Creek needs modernization," he argued, his voice oily. "I'll buy the land adjacent to the trail, build vacation homes, bring jobs, revenue, put this town on the map." The room murmured, some nods from struggling fishermen, but Sarah stood up, her face flushed with anger. "This trail is our history. Paving it over for cabins destroys what makes Willow Creek special. We can't sell our soul for profit." Alex backed her, his engineering savvy kicking in. "I've reviewed your past projects, Hargrove, shoddy construction in Marin County, corners cut on foundations. We're not falling for it." Hargrove smirked. "Review all you want, progress waits for no one." The meeting ended in tension, petitions circulating to block the sale. Sarah and Alex rallied locals, farmers with tractors to help clear the trail faster, kids from her art class painting signs and murals for the festival. Amid the chaos, they found old letters hidden in the lighthouse during a scouting trip, Miguel's love notes to his late wife, Alex's grandmother, written during their courtship. "See," Sarah said, reading one aloud by lantern light. "Love isn't about escaping, it's about building together." Sounds like advice for us. One low moment came mid-December, after a heated letter from Jake that ended in an ultimatum: return or lose his position at the firm. Alex sat alone on the porch that night, whiskey in hand, staring at the redwoods as the wind whispered through the branches. "What am I doing?" he muttered. The city called, promising familiarity and the clatter of streetcars, but thoughts of Sarah, of her laugh, her strength, the way she fit in his arms, anchored him. He couldn't run again. He confessed to her the next day, vulnerability raw. "Part of me wants to bolt back to San Francisco. This is hard, facing everything." She took his hand, her eyes steady. "Then face it with me. Stay because you choose to, not because you have to." That night in the storm that followed, wind howling like a banshee, power flickering out from the lines, they huddled by the fire at Miguel's house. Candles cast a warm glow as they made love on the rug, rain pounding the tin roof, passionate and primal, her nails digging into his back, his thrusts deep and rhythmic, their cries mingling with the thunder as they reached ecstasy together. Christmas approached, snow flurrying in a rare coastal blanket that turned the redwoods into a winter wonderland. The town square hosted a tree lighting, carols filling the air with joy. Under a mistletoe archway strung with lights, Alex kissed her publicly, whispers be damned. I love you, Sarah, he whispered. Always have, always will. Tears glistened in her eyes. I love you too, but what about after the festival, the city? I'm figuring it out, he promised, with you. Gifts exchanged that eve. He carved a redwood necklace for her, a delicate heart pendant symbolizing their roots. She painted a portrait of them as teens in the woods, capturing the innocence and promise they'd lost and found again. The festival prep intensified as December deepened. They strung kerosene lanterns along the newly cleared trail, Sarah's sculptures, intricate driftwood figures carved by hand, depicting forest spirits and sea creatures, placed at key points like guardians. Locals pitched in, turning the effort into a community revival, with fiddle music and shared thermoses of hot cider fueling the work. Night before the solstice, nerves jangling, they walked the path alone under starlit sky, the lanterns flickering like a fairy realm. At the lighthouse, perched on the bluff overlooking the dark, churning Pacific waves crashing far below, Alex dropped to one knee. Marry me, Sarah, he said, voice steady despite his racing heart. Let's build a life here together. I'll resign from the firm, start a local workshop combining woodwork and drafting for the town. Whatever it takes, but with you by my side. The ring was Miguel's, found tucked in the workshop, a simple gold band with a sapphire that matched her eyes. Yes, she whispered, pulling him up for a kiss that tasted of salt and promise. Yes, 1,000 times. The Winter Solstice Festival dawned clear and crisp on December 21, the shortest day giving way to renewed light. Hundreds attended, locals bundled in coats, visitors drawn by word of mouth. The trail glowed with lanterns and lights, guiding walks through the redwoods. Sarah's art elicited gasps and applause, stories shared around bonfires crackling with pine. At the lighthouse, Alex addressed the crowd from a makeshift stage, his voice carrying over the waves. This is for Grandpa Miguel, he said, voice thick with emotion. And for all of us who find our way home through storms, through doubt, Willow Creek isn't just a place, it's our roots. Cheers erupted as fireworks lit the night sky. Hargrove's proposal was voted down unanimously in a follow-up meeting, the land preserved thanks to the petitions and Alex's damning research. Alex stayed true to his word. He transitioned to local contracting, pouring his energy into a new venture, the Miguel Rivera Workshop, where kids learned drafting alongside carving, blending engineering and tradition. Sarah's gallery flourished, her art inspired by their renewed love. A year later, in the spring of 1955, they married under the redwoods, the trail blooming with wildflowers as witnesses. Vows exchanged in a clearing by the stream, rings slipping on with trembling hands. As they walked hand in hand toward their future, a baby on the way kicking gently in Sarah's belly, Alex knew he'd found what he'd been running toward all along. Home, in her arms, rooted deep in the redwood coast.